Hey everyone, so I'm doing a response to David Crowder, the video that he just put up. It's a part of his series, Change My Mind, and he's currently stating the topic that his mind needs to be changed on is that America is not racist. Now, I have my own beliefs about that, but I'm not going to talk about that specifically in this video. The video that I'm responding to is the one he put up just a couple of hours ago, and it is the racist leftist explodes at Crowder during the Change My Mind. And in the video, you see David Crowder come up to this guy who's, not involved in the conversation that Crowder is having with other people about the topic. But he's sort of like off, this guy's sort of on the side having a separate conversation about David Crowder. And I guess somebody who's with David Crowder called, he says that someone who was with David Crowder called him a racist. Well, it turns out as time goes on that wasn't exactly what happened. The guy said that what he said sound racist. So someone that was with David Crowder said to this guy that's standing over in the corner that what he said sounds racist. So this guy who was over in the corner says what he said that sounded racist was, it's only a bunch of white people over there, or something along those lines. And I just want to point out what he means by that and kind of clear that up a little bit. And David Crowder knew this when he said what he said. He's playing semantics. In other words, taking the literal definition of what you're saying and not taking into account what you actually meant when he knows what you meant. So if I say something but I don't know the exact way to express that correctly, but you understand what I'm saying, and instead you take the exact thing that I said and try to use it as a tool against me rather than arguing against my actual argument, that's called straw manning, and that's what he did. So he says, well, basically what you said does sound racist. If he says there's a bunch of white guys over there, what that man was trying to explain is that David Crowder, what you're coming out and doing when you're saying that America is not racist, you're coming out and your movement is a bunch of people that are white and not black and not diverse, so you don't have different people's perspectives that actually would experience racism in America, because to experience, racism historically has been white on black, right? In America, at least. So what he was trying to point out is that your entire crew is white who's coming out and saying this, that America is not racist. Do you have people around you that are diverse that maybe can give you a different perspective? That's what that guy was trying to point to David Crowder. And David Crowder knew that he was trying to point that out to him. He just wanted to straw man the argument and play on semantics, what actually came out of his mouth, to try and frazzle and throw him up, to kind of promote his own agenda. And I discredit David Crowder for doing that, but I also discredit the guy for not being able to explain what he actually meant by what he said. So David Crowder then says to him, well, all I see over here is a bunch of brown people. Now, to me, that was super insensitive, because for you know the history of how people feel about that. There's no check mark that says, brown people, and especially if you're having a conversation about the fact that, everybody that's with you right now that's saying that America is not racist, which is a debatable subject. If he just pointed out that you're all white, he's saying that you're lacking diversity in your opinion, so your opinion is kind of fried. And then what you say in response to that is, oh, well, all I see over here is a bunch of brown people. That's not going to that's not going to come across correctly, and he knew that. He said it to be antagonistic. Now, what he could have said is, well, if I said that there's a bunch of brown people over here, would that be an insensitive thing for me to say? To kind of point the guy in the right direction. But he said that to be insensitive to the guy and piss the guy off pretty much, and try to make it look like, oh, it's another leftist crazy person. Here's where I stand on this issue. Here's where I stand on this issue. Um, Race is socially constructed. And this is what I mean by that. The identity of being white, it has changed over time. The identity of being white as a race, it has changed over time. Initially, being white meant that you were either a part of the Nordic countries, France, Germany, or England. That was it. And maybe northern Italy, right? And over time, that was considered to be the West, the West. And in Europe, people that lived in Eastern Europe, like Austria, Hungary, you know, all the places in Eastern Europe, people that lived over there, Ukrainians, Albanians, those people were not considered white. Russians were not considered white. So, and even Southern Italians were not considered white. When you go back and look at the documents in the United States, they put caps on how many people could actually come from those countries because they were considered racially inferior and not a part of the white race. But over time, as more immigrants that had darker skin came over, the category of being white expanded to include Eastern Europeans. So you can see that it was socially constructed. And even if a person who had parents, you know, that had black skin or whatever, and maybe they had a mom that was white and they came out and they looked white, they could pass as a white person, that person was considered black. Because it was socially categorized. So you could say, okay, well, this is how you describe black people. But if someone had black parents, what they ended up doing was saying, okay, well, there's some people who don't fit that social category of having maybe like a larger nose, larger lips, darker skin, but their parents were black. What they ended up coming out with is the one test of blood, one drop of blood test, where if you even had one drop of blood of ancestry of black people in your history or of African ancestry, you were considered black. And then if you go to different countries, race changes. Now, what is solidly true across all lines, no matter where you go, is ethnicity. So, before I go there, when it comes to race not only has phenotype, which is your physical features, attached to its definition, it also has social constructs attached to it. So, for example, there's the social construct and stigma that black people are lazy, that black people are criminals, that black people are this, that black people are that. Then they put them in that category. And there's the social construct that white people are this, white people are that, or whatever. You know, so that's the social construct. What should happen is we should get rid of the black, the white, the, you know, brown, the yellow, all of that. The red as in Native Americans, we should get rid of that because those are racist terms that have social constructs and social stigmas attached to them. And instead, if we're going to celebrate diversity, let's celebrate the fact that, you know, someone is not that they're black, but not that they're black, but that they're Nigerian, that their ancestral line is Ethiopian, that their ancestral line is Congolese, or anywhere in those in the continent of Africa, or that they're Jamaican or Haitian. That is something that is not as divisive. When you hear someone say Black Power, if you hear someone say Black Power, that is less controversial than if you hear someone say white power, because historically and with the social attachments to race, we know that historically black people have been oppressed and white people have not. So we consider that to be racist. But there is an argument from the conservatives that say, well, logically, why can't we say white power if you can say black power? Even with the history, I don't mean that black people are inferior. I'm just saying that white people should be empowered. Okay, but that is hard to accept because we know the history. But if we took white out of it, if we took black out of it, like I said, and instead we celebrated French culture, German culture, English culture, Swedish culture, Ukrainian culture, Albanian culture. It would no longer, or Italian culture, whatever, Spanish culture. It would no longer be based on race, but on your ethnic background. And that's something that we can all celebrate when it comes to diversity.